Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Stillman and Company in the 440 Sports Network, presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. We are part of the Believe YouTube Podcast Network, which we, of course, are very excited about as well. We have a loaded freaking show on this Monday. Number one, it is Combine Week, and we will get to what really matters as far as the Titans are concerned with the Combine. And we've got mock drafts that are out there. We've got to talk about the Titans with the fourth pick. We've got a shocking free agent ranking from NFL.com. I have a rant that I have got to get off my chest. And then finally, and I get excited about this, Team USA won the gold. USA, 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 which is very, very exciting. So I'm very, very happy about that as well. And we will celebrate Team USA's victory on the ice. And what I thought was the most absurd aspect of Team USA's gold medal and Canada's silver medal, we'll get into that as well. By the way, the reason I'm not at the Combine this week, Lindsay is on her way back to Loserville, Canada, for whatever that's worth. Go ahead and like and subscribe, as we always ask everybody to do. And yes, trust me, we will get in. I promise, to the hockey. I am saving basically the second half of the show for that, but I do want to start on football. First, though, I want to tell you about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Hiller takes great care of my home. They can do the exact same for you. Hiller's been taking care of my home for years. Let Hiller do it for you as well, whether it's a whole home generator, whether it's HVAC work, plumbing work, whatever it may be. Let Hiller do it. They've been in business since 1990. They are family owned and operated with 100% satisfaction of happy you'll be, or the service is free. If a customer is not pleased with the work performed, Hiller will make it right. Learn more by visiting happyhiller.com. Again, I use Hiller at my home. We trust them with our lives. Care is their core value. They believe that when they care about others, which they do, everybody wins, and they'll take care of the customer on every job, every time. That's Hiller. Proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. That's Hiller. Call the Happy Face Truck today. Great basketball game, by the way, between the Vols and Vandy on Saturday, and I contend that Vandy choked for whatever that's worth. Okay, to the Scouting Combine, which kicks off today. So, to me, the Scouting Combine is the unofficial start of the 2026 NFL season. Again, all the teams have been huddled up in their own facilities. All the teams have been talking to themselves about, hey, you know, when we look at our quarterback, we may want to go try to trade with this team. Well, guess where you're going to see this team at? The Scouting Combine. You know, we want to see what the market is on this free agent. Well, guess where that free agent is going to be? His agent is going to be at the Combine. When it comes to draft prospects and who are you going to take, and in the case of the Titans with the fourth pick, they'll all be at the Combine. So there are two things that really matter to me this week. And neither have to do with what Mike Borgonzi or Robert Saleh will say in their media availabilities. I believe Saleh is tomorrow and Borgonzi is Wednesday, or any interview they may do this week. Because, again, the important things, the strategic things, the things that make a difference as to what direction the team goes in, usually are held close to the vest. So here are the two things that matter to me. And we're going to find out this week kind of the answer to these. Number one, how are the Titans going to spend in free agency? How much money do they have to spend? Don't get on some cap website. I know you people love this, but don't get on some cap website and all of a sudden tell me, well, Jared Stillman, thecap.com, says that the Titans have $127 million in cap space, because the owner doesn't care about the cap and the general manager doesn't care about the cap. There's a cap guy who's there to make the accounting work, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is the cold, hard cash. How much money are you allowed to spend? And the second thing is, who are you going to pick with the fourth pick? And that's pretty fucking important. And I know all the draft picks count. I get it. And we care about all of them. But over the last 10 years, if you held the fourth overall pick in the draft, you could have taken Jalen Ramsey, Ronnie Stanley, Laramie Tunsil, Christian McCaffrey, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Quentin Nelson, Josh Hines Allen, Justin Herbert, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell, Patrick Surtain, Micah Parsons, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jalen Carter, Malik Neighbors, Joe Walter, Brock Bowers. That's an all-star team. You could have all those guys on your team if you had the fourth pick. So the fourth pick is a pretty big freaking deal. And so is the 35th pick, by the way, which we'll get into today. But the first thing with the Titans is the money. And it is how they plan on spending the money. How much money will Amy Adams Strunk give them to spend? I don't know the answer to this. I did notice that the Titans have been 23rd in total spending, according to Spot Track, over the last 5 years, and 25th in spending over the last 4. That's not very good. And that, by the way, needs to be covered more locally. There needs to be a discussion about the fact that the Titans in 2020 spent the fifth amount of money in the NFL. They were the 5th largest spenders, according to Spot Track, 14th in 2021, and since then have been 23rd over the last 5 years and 25th over the last 4 years. And the last 4 years is since they had the deal in place to get the new stadium built. And I wonder if Amy has said, well, we're going to be tight to the budget now because we are putting in money to this new stadium. That needs to be discussed. I'm not accusing her of that. I'm just saying it needs to be brought up. It's a shame how little the lack of spending with the Tennessee Titans has been brought up. And I had somebody with the Titans trying to tell me, well, those are two totally different things. The stadium budget versus the team budget, and the team budget is for cap. And I'm like, do you know who you're talking to? Again, let me ask you a question. When it comes to the Titans end of the stadium budget, who pays for that? The owner. When it comes to the players on the team, the payroll, who pays for that? The owner. So if the owner has $1 billion and she has to pay $400 million for the stadium and she has to pay $300 million for the team, that's $700 million of her $1 billion. No matter how you want to slice it, they'll try to say that they're unrelated. But again, it's all what comes out of the owner's pocket. So that needs to be discussed, because when it comes to how much money the owner's giving you, if she's going to let you spend at the top of the league, that's totally different than if she's going to let you spend 25th. Now, according to my math, based upon how the Titans have spent in relation to the cap, I expect the Titans to have $305 million in space of cash to spend this upcoming season. But keep in mind, Jacksonville spent $350 million on their team last year. Houston spent $314 million on their team last year. Indy spent $306 million on their team last year. And that was with a cap that this season is expected to jump by $20 to $30 million this year. So how much money is Amy going to let the Titans spend? Is Amy going to say, hey, you have $350 million to go spend. Knock yourselves out. Right now, the Titans have about 160 in commitments. That's before L'Jarius Sneed gets cut. That's before Lloyd Cushenberry gets cut. That's before perhaps Calvin Ridley gets cut. So if she gives them $350 million to spend on this year's payroll, they could be out there with $200+ million to spend this year on the team. Well, you can go give Trey Hendrickson whatever you want. You can make a huge offer for Tyler Linderbaum. Let's say you cut Lloyd Cushenberry and the Baltimore Ravens offer Tyler Linderbaum $20 million a year, you can offer him 28. And let me ask you this. What's more important to you? $28 million a year over 3 years or $20 million over 3 years? Because that's an extra $24 million, and $24 million ain't nothing. I can make a huge offer for Linderbaum. I can go get Trey Hendrickson. I can trade for DJ Moore. And hell, I can even take on Tua's contract if I want that draft pick that they may attach in order to do it. I can do all kinds of shit if Amy gives me the money to be able to do it. Now, if Amy Adams Strunk says, I'm going to give you $305 million instead of $350 million, well, I think you know how much $45 million in cash for 1 year can go. That's 3 high-end players you may not be able to get. So that's the first thing. I want to know how much money they're going to be able to spend. They're not going to tell you. They know, by the way. But they are not going to tell you. They are not going to sit down at the beginning of this on Tuesday or Wednesday and get up to the podium when asked about all the money they have to spend. Now, they may allude to them spending a lot of money, but they are not going to get up there and they are not going to say, well, you know, that's a really good question, Paul. We have, I think, according to our accounting, we'll probably have anywhere from $180 to $210 million to spend on this year's payroll. Now, we have to account for what we want to spend on next year's payroll, but we're going to be able to probably front load a lot of that money into this year because Amy's giving us $200 million to spend in free agency. He's not going to do that. But you're going to find out pretty quickly what the Titans are telling agents. You know why? Because agents and other teams talk. In the past, I have gotten a feel very, very quickly for how the Titans are going to perform in free agency. I'll never forget 2023. I didn't go to the Combine in 2023. And I remember talking to people at the Combine. And I said on my radio show at the time, I go, here's what I heard from somebody at the Combine. They said the Titans are not going to spend in free agency. And I had an agent tell me it's going to be a rough season for Titans fans. Because the Titans were telling everybody they didn't have any money. Who did they sign that offseason? Andre Dillard, Daniel Brunskill, Arden Key. Woof. Last year, PK went to the Combine, and he came back and said the Titans were out on the Sam Darnold market at $40 million a year. They'd be willing to pay $30 million a year for Sam, but not $40 million a year. Translation, they weren't going to be big spenders, which is why they made one major purchase, Dan Moore at left tackle. So that's the first thing I want to know this week. You know, we've sat there with free agent boards, and I've talked to people in Chicago about DJ Moore. I'd love to get DJ Moore on this team. I've told you, I'd go all in for Trey Hendrickson. I'd pay Trey Hendrickson $30 million a year. I might pay Trey Hendrickson more than $30 million a year. If Amy says I can spend $350 million, I'm so committed to bringing in Trey Hendrickson that I may go to $36 million a year to get Trey Hendrickson on the Titans. So how active are they going to be? How much money has the owner greenlit for them to spend? And again, I'm a little disappointed that as far as the local scribes are concerned in town, we don't hear about, you know, hey, Amy said this year, behind the scenes, Amy said, we've heard. It's never anything like that. We hear that with other teams. You know, we always hear what's going on behind the scenes with the Patriots, behind the scenes with the Bears, behind the scenes with the Jets, behind the scenes with the Giants. But we don't often get a lot of behind the scenes with the Titans until people get fired, and then we get some behind the scenes. I want to know behind the scenes now. How much money is Amy giving them to spend? And if it's a lot of money, you are going to hear that. And you are going to hear that rather quickly this week because they'll want everybody to know that. So that's the first thing. And by the way, I expect them to be insanely active in free agency this year. You know, last year, free agency got a bad rap because Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan and Chad Brinker screwed it up 2 years ago. So the Titans had a bunch of money to spend in free agency. And what they did was they sat there and they listened to themselves. Brinker, Rand, Callahan, Bill Callahan. They listened to all of them, and then they went out there and spent it stupidly. They spent it on L'Jarius Sneed. They spent it on Lloyd Cushenberry. They spent it on running backs. I mean, it just stupid shit. Well, let's just go overpay for Chidobe Awuzie. Like, oh, okay. Free agency is not bad. I saw Eric DeCosta, the general manager of the Ravens. He did a podcast, and he said, we're a draft and develop team. Ugh. Hey, Eric, how many Super Bowls have you won, buddy? You know who's not necessarily a draft and develop team? Seattle. How'd they get their quarterback? Oh, that's right, free agency. You know who else not exactly a draft and develop team? The Eagles. How did they get Saquon Barkley? How did they get Zach Bond? How did they get A.J. Brown? It's a mixture of all of it. And I hate when a team goes into free agency and spends a fortune. And people say, you can't build a championship in free agency. Well, you can't build a championship in free agency alone. But you absolutely can make your football team better in free agency. Just call the Patriots. Ask them, how much did Milton Williams and Morgan Moses and Harold Landry and Stephon Diggs and Hunter Henry, how much did they help your football team out? The truth is, the way that this works is free agency allows you to make up for the picks that you missed on 3 or 4 years ago, because that's when guys are getting to free agency. So you missed 4 years ago on Treylon Burks. He would be a free agent this year. So now you can go spend on a receiver that is roughly the same age. That's the point of free agency. The problem is that there's never a Justin Jefferson in his prime in free agency. If you want Justin Jefferson in his prime, you have to draft it. So again, this idea of demonizing free agency. When Chad Brinker started that whole line of draft, develop, retain, I thought this guy is such an idiot. Because again, what he's doing is he's playing to the feelings that everybody had because Rand and Brinker and Callahan busted the year before in free agency by going out of their way and signing guys that weren't that good. Or in the case of Sneed, hurt. So how much money they have, that's important. The second thing is the 4th overall pick in the draft. And I'm going to throw the 35th pick in the draft into this too. But for right now, the thing everybody's talking about, the thing everybody cares about, is the 4th overall pick in the draft. Jim Wyatt does this multiple times every year. I absolutely love it. It's called Touring of the Mocks, where Jim Wyatt goes through every single mock draft from almost every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there and pulls up who they say the Titans will draft. And today, at the Titans website, Jim Wyatt has out there a brand new Touring of the Mocks. And every single person, with the exception of Rob Rang, whoever the fuck that is, at Fox Sports, who has the Titans drafting Sonny Styles, the inside backer from Ohio State, every single one of those mock drafts has the Titans taking one of 3 players. David Bailey, the edge out of Texas Tech, Ruben Bain, the defensive end out of Miami, and Arvell Reese, the linebacker out of Ohio State. To be honest, I was a little surprised that Carnell Tate, the wide receiver at Ohio State, did not get a bite, was not picked by any of those mock drafts. Now, let me caution people when it comes to mock draft season. It's hard to get a feel. Teams draft now for needs so consistently that it's hard to really get a feel on where people are going to go before free agency. But it seems to me like the Titans are going to be picking between most likely 2 of those 3 players. David Bailey, Ruben Bain, Arvell Reese. Fernando Mendoza is going number 1 to the Raiders. That's done. The Jets have the 2nd pick, and they very well could pick one of the pass rushers. Cleveland, with the 3rd pick, is probably not picking a pass rusher, to go alongside Myles Garrett. So that means you're now on the clock, and probably one of those guys has gone to the Jets. And I don't know who the Jets are going to pick. So the Titans will probably be picking between two of those three players. If I was Mike Borgonzi, I would have somebody with eyes on all three of those players every step of the way at the combine. This would be somewhat covert, but I think at some point these players would realize when they're going to take a leak next to a Burger King and they see the same guy that they saw in the lobby of the hotel and the same guy that they saw when they were inside the convention center and the same guy that they see in the dome, that they're being stalked by that guy over there in the corner. That's okay. I saw somebody put out on Twitter today, you as an agent in the NFL need to tell your draft prospects that they are on the clock the second they get to the airport for Indianapolis. Get to the airport for Indianapolis, you're on the clock. You never know who's going to be watching you. You never know what kind of cues people are picking up. But if I was Mike Borgonzi, I'd want to know everything about all three of these guys. I want to know how they test. I want to know how they interact with others. I want to know how they interview when they interview with us. I want to know how they interview with the public when they do their interviews. I want to know what their medical is. I want to know when they sit down, NFL radio at the combine, Sirius XM NFL radio gets this unbelievable access where they pretty much get long form interviews with every good prospect out there. I love listening to them because they can go in depth further than you would see on a TV interview. And then after the fact, I usually ask the guys at NFL radio, hey, what was this kid like? I mean, I'll tell you, the guys at NFL radio last year said Cam Ward, he was just fabulous. Well, if I'm Mike Borgonzi, want somebody with eyes on all those interviews so that they can say, yeah, I'll tell you, David Bailey, he treated that guy like shit. That stuff's important to know. They may do the drills. They may not do the drills. And I'm going to say that's fine because while I do care about the drills and I think the drills are important, I mean, I like it when people go to compete at the combine. I've learned that nowadays some guys just don't do it, and it is what it is. But I'll get a private workout with all three at some point, and at that, they will run for me at that point. But I need to know the information. I need to know all the information before I decide which one I would pick. And the information you're going to get this week is probably the best information that's out there because you are going to get Ruben Bain's arm length. I don't know what it is. I'm worried about it, but you're going to get the actual number. And you can say it doesn't matter, but we saw in the Super Bowl with Will Campbell, those arms do matter at some point. Arvell Reese was a hybrid on-the-ball, off-the-ball linebacker at Ohio State. Well, how will he measure this week as a prospect, and how explosive will he be if I'm planning on putting him on the edge? How much does he know about being an edge defender? He did play at Ohio State, and he did play last year for Matt Patricia. So when we sit down in the meetings with him, how much does he know about being an edge defender? I think that's kind of important. With David Bailey, I think it's just dotting your I's and crossing your T's. And then the most important thing that's going to happen for all three of these guys at the combine is the medical. And I just ask everybody out there, don't take the medical with a grain of salt. This is the most honest, world-class physical these guys are ever going to get. So if one of these guys has a knee like L'Jarius Sneed, off the board. I'm not expecting that will happen. But Floyd used to tell me he'd get to the combine and there would be guys who found out they only had one kidney when they would go in for the testing. These guys have never had this kind of medical testing. It is standardized. It is sterilized. Your own doctors get to go in there. I want to know how all three check out medically. And I'm not saying, again, that, oh, yeah, Bain's probably got it. He's out. Take him out. Reese, oh, no, he better. No, I'm saying this. It's like on a 0 to 100, who's the healthiest? That's going to be important to me too. And then if I was Mike Borgonzi, I think, and I don't know if you can do this in an organization that has 3 owners, that has the son-in-law in the building with a direct report to the owner, where you're technically the general manager and the president of football operations now you don't report to the president of football operations anymore, but I don't think Borgonzi connects with Amy on a consistent basis from what I've been told. I don't know if you can do this, but if I was Mike Borgonzi, I wouldn't let anybody else make this call with the 4th pick except for me. This is my career. And so what I feel like has happened with the Titans, and I feel like this has happened with a lot of teams in the NFL over the last decade, is for some reason owners think or organizations think that everybody needs to work together and share everything all the time, and I just don't think that's true. I think one person needs to run the operation, and they need to make those calls themselves. If I was Mike Borgonzi, I would take Robert Saleh's advice on things that don't matter as much to me. For instance, the cornerback position. I've told you, I don't necessarily care about having great corners. Would I like to have Christian Gonzalez? Sure. But I don't think Christian Gonzalez makes or breaks your team. I think Trey Hendrickson could. So when it comes to corners, if Robert Saleh tells me in free agency, oh my God, we have to get this guy, well, I might take that into account and give Saleh a bone and make him think that I care about what he thinks. But I'm not drafting the 4th overall pick because of who Robert Saleh wants me to take. They pay me to decide who the 4th overall pick should be. And so if I'm Borgonzi and I think they're going to the combine, knowing that they're going to have their pick of 2 of the 3 between Bailey, Bain, or Reese. And if you want to throw a receiver like Carnell Tate in there, go ahead. But I don't think they're necessarily going to go that route. If I was Borgonzi and it was like, I'm going to pick I'm going to have the opportunity to pick one of those 3. Bailey, Bain, or Reese. Once I make up my decision, I'm not telling anybody. Now, the owner is going to want to know, and you can't lie to her. But I think I'd tell her, hey, this has to stay between me and you. And I'm picking who I want to pick. I am not picking who Robert Saleh tells me to pick. Again, that's what they pay me to do. And then once I get to the combine, if I determine that I'm picking one of those 3 guys, Bain, Bailey, or Reese, then I can move on to the 35th pick and start looking at who may be available there, trade up options, trade down options, you name it. If I don't like those 3, then we go to plan B. But that is kind of the big thing here is, A, how much money are they going to have to spend? Because if you give me $350 million like Jacksonville had last year, I can buy you a shitload of players in free agency. But at the same time, when it comes to, if you don't give me $350 million, now I have to be a little more judicious for whatever that's concerned. Okay, with that, I got a couple of NFL thoughts I want to get to, and then we will get to your reaction, and then we will get to hockey. That's how we're going to do it today here on the program. Let me start with this. There are 2 things that caught my attention, and that both I just could not believe. So NFL.com has put out their list of free agents for the upcoming season. I applaud NFL.com. It is the league's website, which means that, they got to play things, fairly favorably for the league. But at the same time, they also try to be a media entity. So Greg Rosenthal ranks these players. He's a media guy, but he works for the NFL, kind of the same way Daniel Jeremiah or Charles Davis or Rich Eisen or those other guys all do it too. So this year they have the top 100 free agents. And number 1 on the list is Malik Willis. Give me a fucking break. Look, Malik has played great. Much, much better since leaving the Titans. I think I started to see some of the progress Malik made in that training camp under Callahan. I thought he played his best game as a Titan in the final preseason game. Him and Bryce Oliver on the road at New Orleans looked really good in that game. And I thought there was a little something there for Malik. I actually advocated for them keeping Malik. I assumed they would have kept Malik. I was shocked they didn't, and they gave him away for a bag of balls. And for me, the second Malik came in here in week 3 and took the bone out of your ass is when I knew they were going to fire Rand Carthon. But number 1 free agent? Rosenthal writes, I see him as the most dynamic quarterback in football as a runner, and his tape in Green Bay showed incredible growth as a passer over his 2 years with Matt LaFleur. Despite his limited sample size, Willis jumped to the top spot of the ranking based on the same logic that applies to the NFL draft. If a potential franchise quarterback is good enough to be ranked in the top 5 of a list like that, then he should be placed first by virtue of the position. The ceiling is the roof. Dude, Malik Willis is a backup quarterback, and he might be a good backup quarterback. And I said this when I was banging the drum for them to go get somebody better than Malik to be the backup here in 2022 because I was at training camp and I knew Malik wasn't ready. I said, give him a redshirt year. But number 1 free agent in the NFL over George Pickens, over Tyler Linderbaum, over Trey Hendrickson, over Daniel Jones, who had the Colts in first place and thinking they were a Super Bowl contender before he tore his Achilles, over Kenneth Walker III, who was the Super Bowl MVP? Give me a break. And I saw Tom Pelissero reported that somebody may offer Malik $20 to $30 million a year on the free agent market. And I tweeted out yesterday, if you offer Malik Willis $30 million, you are going to get fired. I want that to be abundantly clear. To me, Malik Willis is a good backup quarterback. I think he's too small. I don't think that he is consistently accurate enough. I think the offense in Green Bay probably elevated his traits. I think the limited sample size made it harder for teams to prepare for Malik when he would go into games. I do not think Malik Willis is a starting NFL quarterback, period. And you want to give him $30 million? And he's the number 1 quarterback on your board? Let me tell you who you really should circle if you're saying, hey, this is a weak free agent classic quarterback with the assumption that Daniel Jones goes back to the Colts and Daniel Jones is hurt. This is a weak free agent classic quarterback. Reclamation projects are going to be in vogue because Sam Darnold won a Super Bowl. The guy you want, if you're not the Raiders and you're not going to get Fernando Mendoza, so you're Arizona, you're the Jets, you're the Dolphins, you're the Steelers, you're one of these teams. The guy you want is Mac Jones. Now, you have to trade for Mac Jones because San Francisco signed him to a 2-year deal. But Mac Jones is a better player than Malik Willis. Mac Jones has a lot more history than Malik Willis. And Mac Jones was good whenever Mac Jones had a good coach. Malik Willis had the great Mike Vrabel as his coach, and he wasn't very good. Now, granted, I think that the great Mike Vrabel is overrated, and I think that the arrogance of the great Mike Vrabel is why they put Malik out there before he was ready. And I certainly think that the great coaches that the great Mike Vrabel hired probably hurt Malik Willis in terms of his growth and development. But give me a break thinking that Malik Willis is a starting quarterback. Again, I'm telling you, the one guy out there other than Fernando Mendoza or Kyler or Tua who can start an NFL game is Mac Jones. It's not Malik Willis. Why would you, and I understand draft picks are harder to come by than cash, and this is why I believe that Mac Jones will go for a 3rd-round pick, because I think there will be multiple teams that are calling the 49ers for Mac Jones. No one will offer a 1st or a 2nd for Mac Jones, and nobody would offer a 1st or a 2nd for Malik. But if you're telling me Malik Willis or Mac Jones, I don't think it's very close. I think the answer is Mac Jones. If you're telling me Malik Willis at $30 million a year or Mac Jones at $6 million, that's not a tough discussion for me. I think Mac Jones is a better player. And yet, I just do not understand. Everybody's going to tell me Mac Jones is no good. Mac Jones looked pretty good last year in San Francisco. If Malik Willis looked good enough for you to give him $30 million a year, Mac Jones, who was a starting quarterback on a team that made the playoffs when he had a real offensive coordinator in New England, is absolutely good enough to be a starting quarterback next year in the league. And here's D right here in the comments. Oh, God, Mac Jones sucks. Yeah, I would think that after last year, you guys would kind of listen to me. I think I do know what I'm talking about here. I was banging the drum for Mac Jones to the Titans last year, and people said he sucked. And then he gets out there for the 49ers, and he looks pretty good. And I'm not saying that Mac Jones is a franchise quarterback. I'm just saying Mac Jones is one of the 32 best quarterbacks on the planet. And if I was a team and I desperately needed a quarterback and I couldn't draft Fernando Mendoza, I'd be calling San Francisco about Mac Jones before I'd ever consider Malik Willis. The second rant I have to go on before we get to your Titan reaction is about Tom Brady. And I understand Tom Brady doesn't run the Titans, and thank God he doesn't, even though the Titans are run by some real morons too. So Tom Brady, and you know I love Tom Brady. Tom Brady, the quarterback. Tom Brady was in Milan this weekend at the Olympics. He was there with his kids. Good for him. He was cheering on Team USA, and that's great. That's his business. I don't have a problem with it. Except that at the same time, Tom Brady is trying to run the Las Vegas Raiders. And I find it disrespectful to Raider fans that Tom Brady was out in Milan the day before the opening of the scouting combine in Indianapolis. The Las Vegas Raiders have very good fans. They are a national fan base. And you know this because I know you have somebody in your life who is a Raider fan. The Raiders were that rebel franchise when Al Davis was alive, and they are one of the extremely popular teams in the league. Dallas, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, the Raiders. San Francisco, Denver, they're one of them. And while they have a general manager, they're run by Tom Brady. And where is Tom Brady? Well, I guess Tom Brady was on vacation. Do you think John Schneider, who runs the Seahawks, was on vacation this weekend? Do you think Brent Veach and Andy Reid, as they were getting ready for the combine, where they know they're going to have to rebuild the Chiefs, do you think they were overseas? How about Jim Harbaugh, who's also in your own division? Of course not. Jim Harbaugh, Andy Reid, John Schneider, they were all getting ready for one of the single biggest offseason events of the year because they know their football teams and their careers as football executives are made or broken by what happens at the combine and subsequently free agency and the draft. Tom Brady is acting like an owner, which technically he is for the Raiders. But he's acting like an owner who's hands off and lets his general manager run the team. You know the owners that say, well, I'll go on my yacht when I please. But most owners who do that delegate running the franchise to the people that actually know how to do it. And the ones that don't usually run the worst teams in the NFL, like Dan Snyder with the then Washington Redskins. Tom Brady doesn't delegate to the general manager. He hired the general manager. It's his guy from Tampa Bay. Brady hires the coach. Brady picks the quarterback. Brady fires the coach. Brady hires the next coach. And I think it is so disrespectful to the fans that you're trying to build a team to compete with decision makers, coaches, and general managers that actually do their job and take it seriously. If somebody were to say to Tom Brady, hey, Tom, the scouting combine is tomorrow. Why are you in Milan? What sort of qualifications do you have to be able to run the Raiders and run them successfully? Is there anything he could say other than, well, I played quarterback in the NFL? Okay, but you're not playing quarterback now. Michael Jordan was a great basketball player. His basketball teams sucked. Derek Jeter was a great shortstop. His Miami Marlins were dreadful. And I have to ask Tom Brady this. How would he have felt if he was the quarterback in Tampa Bay and Jason Light, the chief football executive, decided, you know what, I'm going to take a vacation before the combine? Tom Brady would have said, get your ass back to work. Because Tom Brady was all in as a football player, and he demanded that everybody else around him be all in too. But post-career, instead of all in, he's been all over. Vacations, broadcasting, then he's in the coach's box with a headset on. He's picking the quarterback. He's hiring the GM. He's hiring the coach. He's firing the coach. He's hiring the next coach. He's going to pick the new QB. Brady's not committed to any one thing. And again, I'm not a Raider fan, but it's disrespecting the great Raider fans that just want to see a competent product on the field. It drives me crazy. I guess people out there just think it's not that hard to run an NFL team. Oh, I can do it. Then go do it. Well, no, I got to go vacation first. If somebody said to you, hey, you're not that good of a quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo can do it, you'd laugh in their face because you did. Just pisses me off how people act like running the NFL and the teams in the NFL that, oh, yeah, we just do whatever the fuck we want. Oh, it drives me nuts. Maybe it's because I worked with somebody every day that did that job and took it seriously. But, I mean, I remember a couple of years ago when Rand Carthon didn't go to the Senior Bowl, and everyone's like, oh, you don't need to go to the Senior Bowl now. Yes, you do. Do your job. If Brady just wants to be an owner and he wants to own 10% of the team and he wants to mind his own fucking business in Milan, fine. But don't go pick the quarterback. Don't be parading on the field in a Las Vegas Raiders hoodie like you're going to go pick the quarterback at the national championship game. Don't go pick the coach. I don't need to hear Diana Rossini say Brady and Clint Kubiak really hit it off. I didn't give a shit about Tom Brady's not having a dog in the fight with the Super Bowl comments, because the way I looked at it would be like, if Tom Brady was the coach of the Raiders, do you think Tom Brady would still be rooting for the Patriots? No. People got upset about that. I don't care about that. I'm upset about this. I'm upset about you running the team and then not putting the work in to run the team, so that when you put a shit team out there like you did last year, those Raider fans are going to be the ones that have to suffer because you're so arrogant, because you were a good quarterback, you think you can run a team and go on vacation at the same time. That's what makes me mad. All right, let's get to some of your reaction here on the program if you want to weigh in. Trent says, when do the actual measurements and combine events happen? I believe later in the week and this upcoming weekend. I believe the running at the combine is this weekend. That this will be where the receivers run and the quarterbacks throw. And I think they want to make it kind of like a weekend type deal, you know, a made for TV thing. I don't think that many people watch combine. I could be wrong, but I believe that this weekend is when all the real nitty gritty for the fans, you know, how fast did they run? That's when that happens. Josh says the fourth pick did not produce Sewell, Mahomes, Allen. Fix your description, Jared. No. Here's what I said. In fact, I think I wrote it down. I said that if you had the fourth pick over the last 10 years, you would have been able to draft. You're right. Mahomes wasn't the fourth pick. He was available with the fourth pick. So you would have been able to pick those kind of players if you had that pick. I didn't say all those guys out there were the ones that were all picked fourth overall. Jalen Carter wasn't picked fourth overall, but if you had the fourth pick in that draft, you could have drafted Jalen Carter. Adam from Portland says, I'd much rather a shorter ceiling for a durable guy than going on a limb. Also, I'm over developmental players in the first 2 days. Fimmy. Yikes. Look, I do think that when you're drafting a player, projectability is important. Jackson Smith and Jigba was not Jerry Rice in year 1. He was Jerry Rice in year 3. And I think that's important to note. But at the same time, I'm with you. Drafting a guy because, well, we think he can play edge rusher. You would have been better off just drafting E-Man Wardy with that pick instead of trying to turn it into 2 picks because you felt like you had to take Campbell. Joe says, Malik took advantage of every opportunity since he left Nashville. The market is what it is. Malik Willis is not the top free agent on the board. If you give Malik Willis $20 million, you are going to get fired. If you think Malik Willis should be your starting quarterback and you don't have a great fucking team around him, you're going to get fired. Period. He's not that good. By the way, the team I think that's going to end up signing Malik, I'm going to call it now. I think it's Arizona. I think Arizona is the team that should trade for Mac Jones, but I don't know if San Francisco will trade in their own division because I think they know that Mac Jones is not bad. And so Arizona won't be able to get Mac Jones. I think they'll trade Kyler to a desperate team like the Jets, and then they'll sign Malik for like $14.5 million a year. I do not think Malik is going to get $20 or $30 million. I think that would be crazy for Malik to have that kind of money. $30 million for Malik Willis. Okay, let's get to the hockey. USA! 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 Oh, it was so glorious. I was on Sirius XM yesterday during the hockey game, and so I got to react immediately as soon as it was over, and that was great. The one thing that kind of sucked was, again, Lindsay dressed Jack up in his Jordan Bennington jersey, and he was wearing Canadian pants, and I had to remind Jack at 1 year old that, hey, you are an American citizen, and we root for Team USA in this house. But it was nice. It was nice to see Team USA finally slay Goliath. And there was definitely a little brother feel for Team USA. I felt it last year when it came to the Four Nations face-off. I was always nervous that when it really mattered, we, the United States, would never be able to beat Canada, and we did yesterday. Congratulations, Team USA. Congratulations, Connor Hellebuck, who was fabulous in net, stood on his head. Congrats to Jack Hughes, who I thought really played like shit in the Four Nations final last year. He potted the game winner in overtime. And congratulations to Austin Matthews, who finally won something in his career, even though it felt like he was a total passenger once again in a big game for Team USA. And so I was on yesterday on Sirius XM when Team USA won. And I was so happy for Team USA. And I did take some joy when they showed the Canadians accepting their silver medals as if somebody was giving them the plague around their neck when they were giving it out. I smiled and laughed. Poor Macklin Celebrini. You're supposed to win the gold, and you didn't. But after it was over, it was over. And I said, hey, this is a great rivalry. And I hated that the Team USA hockey team lost in the Four Nations last year, and I loved that they won this year, and I'm sure they'll do battle again at the World Championships in 2028 or whatever it is, and they'll do battle at the Olympics again, and I love this. USA, Canada. I think the Four Nations was a one-off, but I think they should bring it back. I love the Four Nations. Let's go. Let's play hockey. Let's get good on good. Let's get America behind it. Let's get Canada in. Now you got to go take the crown back, Canada. I love it. But after the game, the Canadian bitching. So I was on Sirius until 11 Central yesterday. The game ended somewhere around 10:30, I want to say. So I had an hour and a half to react, and I did react. I talked about Team USA and Hellebuck and the fact that Devon Taves was standing right there on the crease, puck on his tape. It should have been a goal. What a save by Hellebuck, and all of it. But I didn't hear the Canadian bitching until after I got off the air. And it was embarrassing. John Cooper, the coach, after the game, blaming 3-on-3 for why they lost. Was Cooper complaining about 3-on-3 after they beat Czechia in overtime? Did I hear Cooper get up there after the game and talk about 3-on-3 is ridiculous in the Olympics? Because that was a quarterfinal game. They played 3-on-3. Mitch Marner scored, and I'm not sure John Cooper did bitch about 3-on-3 after the game. Oh, but now you lost in the gold medal game, and now you don't like 3-on-3. And then Nathan McKinnon. Well, you can see who the better team was. And let me say this about the crying from both Cooper and McKinnon. They're not wrong, but that doesn't matter. Cooper is right. 3-on-3 for a gold medal is stupid. Why are we playing 3-on-3? This should be treated like Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. 5-on-5 and play it until somebody scores. But at the same time, John Cooper had a lineup in 3-on-3 overtime of Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, and Cale Makar. If God came to you and said, how would you like to open 3-on-3 for a gold medal game? You can pick any 3 players in the world. Wouldn't it be those exact 3 players? The Canadians have a huge advantage in a 3-on-3 overtime. Look at their roster. It's all skilled guys who can skate. McDavid, McKinnon, Celebrini, Marner. I'm not saying Team USA doesn't have guys that would be good in a 3-on-3 overtime, like the Kachucks, like Austin Matthews should be, though he never shows up in big games. But give me a break. I mean, holy crap. And then Nathan McKinnon, fine. I would say Nathan McKinnon's probably right. Team Canada did outplay Team USA. They outshot Team USA. They outchanced Team USA. Again, Devon Taves has the puck right in front of the net, and he can't put it in. But the reason that they didn't win is because Connor Hellebuck was absolutely outstanding. Because the American strength was in their goaltending. Hellebuck. And the fact that I thought Team USA had better defensive defensemen than Canada did. You know, Canada had Cale Makar, and Cale Makar is a Norris Trophy winner, and he's the man, but he's not as good at home as, say, a Jacob Slavin is. But people get so caught up in these offensive defensemen, and I think Canada had a little bit more of that. Now, Quinn Hughes kind of that way too, but that's fine. I thought when I looked at the game, I picked Canada to win 3-2 in overtime. I thought it was going to be very, very close, and I picked Macklin Celebrini to have the game winner, and I think Macklin Celebrini is so freaking good. Oh, my God. I think I can share this now because he's retiring anyways. But Barry Trotz said to me one time when we were doing the interviews every week, Barry Trotz said to me off the air, he said, Celebrini's going to be better than Bedard. He's like, all the hubbub was about Bedard in 23, and it wasn't as big leading up to Celebrini in 24, but he said Celebrini's going to be better than Bedard. And I will say this, Celebrini, I think he's not going to be Crosby or McDavid, but I think he's going to be like one skosh below that. He's so freaking good. And so they have all these players, and they're outchancing Team USA. And I thought Canada was going to win because they had a better team. But the strength for the Americans was in net with Connor Hellebuck. And I think of this like baseball. This is why I get on UC Saros' ass when UC Saros doesn't win big games, because at the end of the day, when you are a goalie and your team invests in you the kind of money that they've invested in a Connor Hellebuck, or that they've invested in a UC Saros, or that they've invested in a Jeremy Swayman, and the type of trade protection, what you're saying to that player is, we need you. And we need you to carry the team. Like, that's what you're saying to these guys. And yesterday, Connor Hellebuck carried the team. Team USA's strength was in net, and Connor Hellebuck performed. So McKinnon can say anything that he wants about how they outplayed them. They were supposed to outplay them. They have better players. But Team USA had the better goalie. And I look at this like baseball. Good pitching versus good hitting. Go back to that Yankees Diamondbacks World Series, for instance. The Yankees had better players. The Yankees had Derek Jeter and Bernie Williams and Jorge Posada and all these great players that they had won all these other World Series with. But the Diamondbacks had Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling. And the Diamondbacks won because the Diamondbacks had Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling. Team USA won because they had Connor Hellebuck in net. And Connor Hellebuck is the best goalie in the world. And I know, Winnipeg doesn't win shit in the playoffs. And I know Winnipeg stinks this year. And I'm just going to tell you right now, Connor Hellebuck, game on the line. If we're picking a goalie, that's who you want. And Jordan Binnington, once again, he was another fabulous game for Jordan Binnington in a big game. But he wasn't asked to make the kind of saves Hellebuck was, and Hellebuck made them. And so I go back to the fact that Canada can't take their loss like men. The coach is just complaining about rules that he signed up for. That's beneath John Cooper. John Cooper's won multiple Stanley Cups. John Cooper is a future Hockey Hall of Famer. That is beneath him to complain about rules that A, he knew about going into the tournament, and B, favored his team. Again, McKinnon, McDavid, Makar. That's the Lord's team in 3-on-3. And then Nathan McKinnon. Well, we outplayed him. And you know what you get for that? A silver medal. There was a part of me that thought to myself, will this rivalry die down a little bit now that Team USA has finally won? Because it has had this little brother, big brother dynamic where Team USA, even when they should win, like the Four Nations last year, they find a way to crap it away. And now that that's gone, is this like the Yankees and the Red Sox where that rivalry just doesn't really exist anymore? And then as soon as Canada came out after the game and acted like a bunch of sore losers, I said, nope. I said, fuck them. Like, play free bird, let's go. So congratulations to Team USA. While Cooper and McKinnon may be considered factually correct, 3-on-3 for a gold medal is stupid. And McKinnon's right. They did outchance Team USA. They look like a bunch of whiny crybabies. And that makes me enjoy the Canadian misery of them losing the one thing that they are actually better than the United States at even more. It was a great game. I want more games like it. It could have gone either way, just like the Four Nations last year. That could have gone either way. But instead of saying, good game, tip your caps to those guys, they deserve it, we really are ready to play them the next time we play them, Canada had to act like a spoiled group of babies. And all that makes me want to do is crank Freebird in my house with my Canadian girlfriend and half Canadian child even more. What a bitch move by John Cooper and a bitch move by Nathan McKinnon after the game. And I enjoyed it so much to see those Canadian players as they were getting those silver medals. They just looked so depressed. And look, I got nothing against any of those guys. I don't have anything against McDavid. I like McDavid. I don't have anything against McKinnon, though I thought that was embarrassing what he did after the game. I don't have anything against Cooper. I don't have anything against Sidney Crosby. I don't have anything against Macklin Celebrini. Again, I love Macklin Celebrini. But I'm watching them get their silver medals. And I'm like, ah! Fuck you guys. Go USA. And then I started to feel a little bad for them. You know, like this is the only thing Canada's got. And what's it? And then I see them complain afterwards. And I'm like, fuck them. Let me say this, though, with Cooper. I do want everybody to know this. He is right. And I understand playing 3-on-3 in quarterfinals. We got to get people off the ice. We got to get people on the ice. We got to get to the closing ceremonies. We got to get to, I understand that. Gold medal game, we need to be playing 5-on-5. Like, we need to play 5-on-5. I want to address this one comment here in the comment box. Trent says, Kash Patel ruined it for me. That is the FBI director, Kash Patel, who was seen on camera partying with Team USA in the locker room after the game. I will say this. I do not care who the players voted for. I do not care what the players think we should do as far as abortion is concerned, how we should be run as a country from a taxation standpoint. I don't care what they think about global terrorism, any type of big political issue. The last person whose opinion I care about on any of that is Jack Hughes, with all due respect. The one thing I'll say about America is no matter who you voted for, we're still Americans. I still root for America. And I always have rooted for America. I rooted for America when Bill Clinton was the president. And I didn't all of a sudden stop because George W. Bush got elected. I loved Team USA under Obama, and I liked them the same under Trump the first term. I was rooting for them with Joe Biden as president, and I am rooting for them now with Donald Trump. I don't care who they vote for. I don't care who they like. I don't care. What do I care about what the Kachuk brothers think? I care about the Kachuk brothers putting the puck in the net. But I will say this. And I understand it's cool. You're in the locker room after the game and the guys want to chug beers. And if you're the FBI director, shouldn't you be a little bit more buttoned up? I mean, this is the FBI that we're talking about here. So I don't care. If the president calls the team and says, good game, I'm not going to be upset about that. He's the president, and his country, which is my country, won. And I don't care if Biden called him too. And I don't care if Obama called him. And I don't care about any of that. But, shouldn't the FBI director just be a little bit more buttoned up inside the locker room after the game? Hey, great job, guys. Not, let's go chug a bunch of beers and play Freebird. But that being said, I don't give a shit about Kash Patel being in there. It didn't take 1 ounce away from me in terms of my enjoyment and excitement of Team USA's first gold since 1980. That's it for us. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Robert Saleh talks tomorrow. We'll have a full reaction to that and everything else going on at the Combine. Stillman & Company, 440 Sports, presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, a proud part of the Believe Podcast Network. We will see you all tomorrow.